People who love reading actually do exist. Full story. I found this little community. My story happened nearly a decade ago and isn't extraordinary, but it was very satisfying. Exact wording is a little iffy thanks to a poor memory, but it's a close approximation. Around this time in my life, I worked retail. I was regularly mistaken for an employee of various stores, even if I wasn't in clothing that even remotely resembles the store uniform. I must have had a customer service aura or something. I don't know. My friend too. It's also not uncommon for customers to knowingly ask other customers for assistance in the area I live in. It's an, I know you don't work here, but I was hoping you could help kind of thing. So a friend and I were at a mall, browsing a small bookstore. We both loved reading all kinds of stuff. Fantasy and science fiction, actual science, history, comics, travel, hobbies, even the occasional trashy romance novel. You name it, and one of us has probably read a book that falls under the category. I mean, we both just loved reading pretty much anything. We were also both very familiar with our local bookstores in general. Browsing at bookstores was one of our favorite pastimes. We'd been in the store for about 30 minutes or so, moving from section to section and talking in low voices about various books, authors, and series with enthusiasm and excitement. We were also discussing which ones we wanted to buy and had baskets with us. We were pulling books off shelves, reading the back, flipping through the first few pages, and reshelving the books we didn't decide to buy. It's important to note that both of us were dressed extremely casual. She had on a very low-cut shirt, and I was in jeans and tank top that showed a bit of cleavage. Definitely not the professional attire that the bookstore employees wore. We'd just reached the comics section when this lady came up to us and interrupted our conversation with a question about a specific book. The only employee apparent in the store was in the process of ringing up several customers. I asked her what the book was about, and after she told me, I told her what section it would probably be in and pointed the section out. Then I turned back to my friend and resumed our conversation. Well, this lady didn't like my response and was not gonna have it. She interrupted us again and asked why I wasn't looking the book up on a computer and escorting her to its exact spot on the shelf. I said, "Sorry, ma'am, I don't actually work here. I'm just another customer who happens to love books. I'd still take you to it, but I've never heard of the book you're asking about. What I told you before is the best help I can offer." I then turned back to my friend and resumed the conversation. Suddenly, this lady grabbed my wrist. I turned towards her in total shock and outrage, and my friend is giving her a murderous "WTF do you think you're doing, you crazy lady?" kind of look. My friend had gone from kneeling near the bottom shelves to standing in an instant. I calmly looked down at her hand and then looked her in the eye as I gently but firmly removed her hand from my wrist. Then I stepped back out of arm's reach. "Lady, I know you work here." Me, "How dare you touch me like that? I'd think that the way we were dressed would make it obvious that we don't work here." Lady, "I've been in here for 15 minutes and you two have been moving from section to section while talking about books. You work here." Me, "No, I don't." Lady, "Yes, you do. I saw you putting books back." My friend, who is much less polite than I am, "You saw us doing all that because we love to read. And we were looking at books, you effing idiot." It's possible that her response had several more F-bombs at that time. It was my friend's favorite word, and she seemed to use it every other word. I enjoyed the word myself, but customer service was so ingrained in me that I mostly stuck to purely polite language. Her, offended and outraged, "I'm going to report you to your manager." Me, smiling and laughing a little, "Okay, you do that." Lady, while looking me in the eye, I mean it. My friend, also laughing. Go ahead. I turned and exchanged a glance with my friend before we both turned back to watch her. The actual bookstore employee was less than 10 feet away and well within hearing range. My friend and I were eagerly awaiting her complaint. When she got to the actual employee, we were thrilled to hear her recount the tale of how rude we were to her and how we should be fired. The employee looked confused and then looked where the lady was pointing. The lady looked over at us too. I smiled and waved. My friend laughed. Lady, but they've been moving from section to section and talking about books. Employee, I'm sorry for the confusion, ma'am, but they don't work here. All the employees of bookstore wear a badge like this. Shows badge. Lady, but they were talking about books and they were excited. Employee, they don't work here, ma'am. The lady turned towards us, looking extremely confused, embarrassed, and deflated. But I was laughing pretty hard and making no attempt to hide it. But I did wave at her again. Employee, what's the name of the book you were looking for, ma'am? And I'll help you find it. The lady bought a single book. Between my friend and I, we bought around 20 or so books. I had worked a book allowance into my monthly budget. The lady was gone when we checked out, and the employee apologized to us for the inconvenience. I told her it really wasn't her fault, that some people are idiots, and we all kind of chuckled about how ridiculous she'd been. To this day, I can't get over how impossible she found it that someone who didn't work in a bookstore might know about books and be excited about them. I mean, I might love reading and read from a broad range of categories, but I've never considered myself as falling into hardcore territory. Sadly, I do live in the southern United States, so them readers is also a phrase that I'm familiar with. She just doesn't look like the kind of people that I'd heard it from. Guess you really can't judge a book by its cover. I don't know what part of southern states you're from, but in Georgia, I've never once heard the phrase them readers or anyone insinuate that someone who reads is nerdy or bad in any way. I mean, outside of childish schoolyard banter, that is. Talking to someone in your own time? How dare you! It's my first real post on here. I've been lurking for quite a while, but never posted. So my apologies if the formatting is wrong. This happened yesterday in my local supermarket. The cast, LOL, lovely old lady, K, entitled Karen, M, manager, CE, confused employee, and of course, me as me. I'm a fairly tall guy, 1.97 meters, or about 6 foot 5 inches-ish, and I get asked to grab something off a top shelf by someone shorter than me on quite a regular basis. And when I see someone struggling to reach a product, I often offer to help myself. So of course, when I see this little old lady, all stretched out and standing on her toes, trying to reach for a pack of crisps, I asked, "Do you need some help, ma'am?" LOL. "Oh yes, dear. If you can grab me 2 pack of crisps." LOL. "Oh yes, dear. If you can grab me 2 pack of those crisps, that would be wonderful." Me. "No problem. Here you are." Hands her 2 packs of crisps. The LOL then starts about how I remind her of her grandson, because he's tall as well, and he also wears those kinds of music shirts. I'm wearing a shirt with the skull of the Whispered One from /Critical Role, but I chose not to correct her on that one. We kept chatting for about 5 minutes, and during this time, the Karen of the story pops her head in the aisle 2 or 3 times and looks in our general direction. I didn't think anything about it. Yet. So after about 5 minutes, the LOL thanks me again, and she goes her own way. Time for me to choose what kind of crisps I want. Nope. K. Are you finally done talking? I've been waiting for 15 minutes. What do you think your boss would say about wasting 15 minutes talking to a customer? Me. Confused? I'm pretty sure he doesn't care whom I talk to. K. You're trying to tell me he doesn't mind you wasting time? Me. Yeah, and even if he would mind, I don't see how it would be any of his business. K. Nonsense. Anyways, I need brand X coffee beans. Me, still oblivious to the fact she thinks I'm an employee. As far as I know, all coffee is in the next aisle. I'm sure you'll find it there. K. I know it's in the next aisle, you idiot. But the shelf where it's supposed to be is empty. Me. Well, sorry, can't help you then. And I turn around, looking at the crisps again. K. That's it. I will have your job for this. It's not until now I realize she thinks I'm an employee there, even though I'm wearing a black shirt with a skull on it, and the employees wear a light blue button-up shirt with a name tag. I wanted to explain to her that I do in fact not work there, and this must be a misunderstanding, but she's already storming off. I continue shopping, and a few minutes later, when I'm standing at the dairy section, next to an actual employee who's stocking, I hear her shouting again. K. That's him. M walks to CE next to me and asks him, this lady tells me you've been wasting 15 minutes just making small talk to a customer and then refuse to help her. Can you tell me what happened? CE. No, that's not true. I did help someone find the grated cheese, but then I went right back to stocking. K. No, not him, the other one. And then points at me. M, looking at me, and then to K. Ma'am, this is obviously not an employee here. Me. No, how the hell did you think I was an employee? I obviously don't look like one. K. And now he's swearing at customers too? You need to fire him. I just facepalm at this moment. Then look the manager in the eyes and say, you know what? No need to fire me. I quit effective immediately. I then turn to CE, who's failing to understand what's going on, and say, it was nice working with you, mate. See you later, and shake his hand. I could see all three trying to figure out what just happened when I walked past them to check out. And I couldn't stop laughing on my 3 minutes walk home. Man, that poor employee just wants to do his job, stock a few shelves, and go home with a paycheck at the end of the week. Karen's gotta make things all complicated. Alrighty guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today. I hope you enjoyed the stories. And if you did and you're new around here, well then maybe consider subscribing. And if you really liked it, then maybe give it a thumbs up and a share. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. I'm a fairly tall guy, 197 meters. I guess Godzilla's shopping at the supermarket.